And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. Thank you all for joining me today on what is promising to be a brand new show here on all of our platforms. And I would like to invite you guys to our very first guest. And what do we have here? Well, I call this show My Cool Friends because we have indeed very cool friends I'd like to invite on to show off to you guys. And on our first episode, we have, if you came from my email list, I talked to about this guy in high regard. I met him not too long ago, and he opened my eyes to something that I spend multiple hours on the internet, more than I am comfortable admitting. And I was not aware that websites can also be handicap accessible. And I'm going to let this man talk about it more. Let me introduce to you the man, the myth, the legend, the man of the hour, Tony I'm going to butcher your last name. I'm so sorry. Tony and your last name is cut off in the live feed, so I'm going to butcher it even more. Okay. Tony, introduce yourself.
Hey, buddy. Thank you so much for having me. It's Tony Caggiano, also known as the ADA Comply Guy. Yeah, it's an honor and a pleasure to be on your inaugural show, the very first one. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it, buddy.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, as many people who know me, I'm an entrepreneur through and through. So any and all people who are going to be coming on this show, including you, are entrepreneurs. So Tony, tell us a little bit about what you do and tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Sure. Well, I am known as the ADA Comply Guy because of what I do. My business, my mission is to educate business owners who have business websites all about the requirements of the ADA in the US, which is the Americans with Disability Act, and what requirements are now necessary on your websites or sales funnels to make them accessible to people with disabilities. And so what I do is, help them with simple software, pretty much. The software that we provide to them goes on your website utilizing a quick and easy little header code. We provide you with a custom header code. You put it into the header portion of your website, and if it's a website builder like ClickFunnels or Lead Pages, Kartra, any of those, it's simple, easy plug and play to put it right on your website. And what it'll do is it'll put a whole toolbar of tools for people with disabilities on your site. So that way they can adjust the screen, they can make the contrast different. There's a screen reader for people who have a hard time actually reading the screen. So it gives them the ability to dynamically adjust your website in order to make them more comfortable and able to utilize the website for a longer period of times, and therefore, keep them as a customer. Because a lot of people, if you don't have the tools and people need the tools that are on your website, a lot of times they won't even stay there. So, I'm helping both sides of the spectrum here. The business owners with their websites, trying to help them, provide these tools and bring in more clients that want to use their websites, but also becoming an advocate. And that's really where my main mission is for the disabled community, to help them bring more awareness to the needs for website accessibility.
And what like this is a lot. Like, what inspired you to do all this?
Well, part of the backstory, if we start way back, when I was younger, I volunteered a lot with Special Olympics. I worked with a disabled Boy Scout troop, and I really loved working with others who needed a little bit more of assistance. So giving of myself and my time to others who needed help really started when I was much younger. But then fast forward a few years, I say a few years, but when I got married and when we had kids, our son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And, I always feel, very passionately that God doesn't give you things that you can't handle. And, when when our son was diagnosed with autism, we looked at it as a special gift, and it has proved to be something amazing because he's an amazing kid. He's 14 now, and he's utilized that as not so much as a disability, but he's learned to use it as his superpower, and that's what he calls it. Because he has heightened awareness and abilities in certain areas, and one of them happens to be basketball. He's a super basketball athlete. It also helps that he's 14 years old and 6'2", but he always looked at it as a superpower, and being that he was aware of his autism at a younger age, he always wanted to utilize that as well, because he saw his mother and I working with other people and helping others. He always wanted to help others as well, and so he has a huge heart. So with that, fast forward a few more years, being in the IT industry most of my career, I saw a real need for website accessibility when I heard about it a couple of years ago, but it really wasn't on my main radar until the end of last year. I was working on a side project of building a fundraising app for our local schools here in North Carolina, because our schools here, and I'm sure schools around the country, really need extra funding for the kids for a lot of things. So I put together an app, and we were building into the prototype phase, and I was looking for a developer to really help us get it to the final stage and launch it. And
for those of you wondering who are listening to this in the future, it is September 2020 right now. So if the meteors have hit, we're in the middle of the plague right now.
So this was back in October of 2019, before the crazy year of 2020 started. So I met a bunch of developers, and I was looking for a way to market it, and that's where I found the ClickFunnels community as well. So the two kind of merged together, and so I was working on the app. And when COVID hit, it really made me shift, because the app was no longer viable, because we were working with local businesses and schools and putting them together via an app to raise funds via type of a digital coupon type of app. And we had to put that on the back burner for now, because obviously everything that's going on. But I had met a developer in the process that was working on this project to provide this software that made websites accessible. And I remember a few years back, being in IT, that I always wondered how come people weren't making sites more accessible over the past couple of years. I haven't really seen a lot of things going on. And it turns out it's because it's very expensive. It could cost a couple $1,000s at least for a small business to have a web designer redesign their site in order to make it comply with ADA requirements, in the way of making it, redesigned in the specific way it needs to be. But when I saw the software actually, it's a quick install, and it makes the site not just statically accessible, but dynamically. So people with different abilities can utilize the different tools in order to adjust the site just for them. And I just thought it was a phenomenal piece of software, and that pretty much 99% of businesses out there need something like this, because there's less than 1% of businesses today that have an accessible website. So I just saw it as a huge opportunity to, start a company to spread the message and get this out there. So that's really where, back in December, January timeframe is where I got the idea to really take this and utilize this as an opportunity to help a great deal of people. And that's why I'm out there almost every day going online and promoting this, because every person that I can talk to is somebody that I can possibly help, whether it be a business person or somebody in the disabled community that I could help by, providing another accessible website for them.
That's amazing. So to cliff note this for everyone, to put it into perspective, you started, are we coming up on your 1-year anniversary of this idea being born?
I think it was closer to December, but it's my 1-year anniversary of, getting into the digital space, as far as, the online space. So yeah, it's been a great year.
So, and I've heard, I've definitely, there's been a lot of people who have been like, oh, like they've been really focused on, because of the atmosphere of this catastrophe year. They've been really focused on the things that they can't do.
Mm-hmm.
But every like you mentioned, every single day you have been hustling, no different than someone who is out there just at conferences, at door to door. You have been hustling the exact same way, just on the digital world, like on the computer.
Absolutely.
Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, and hustling, I don't know, it kind of sounds like hustling is a lot of work, but to me, this is something that I absolutely enjoy, and I love helping other people. I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, and part of what I love doing is giving back and helping others. So, with this opportunity, it just every day when I wake up and I get to do this and I get to meet somebody new and, see how I can help them in their business, but also, let them know what I'm doing. And spreading the word, to me, it doesn't feel like hustling. It feels like, I'm doing something that I really enjoy. So that's what makes it, this crazy year that we're in. There's been a lot of things that we can't do, but I've just looked at it in the sense of, this is something that I can do and I really enjoy it, and I'm just going to keep continuing to do it. And it's just what helps me every day, continuing to enjoy what I do.
Absolutely. I want to continue our conversation, talk about this massive journey that you've been on. Was there any point in time when you hit a speed bump, when you hit like your first trial and you thought like, oh man, how am I going to overcome this? Because you and me both know very well, this is not a Disney story that we are living in. And the people on top that have made their multiple figures, they do not have Disney stories either. So can you tell us about the speed bumps and the walls you have overcome to get where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny that you say that, because there's a lot of people that we know that, have been successful. And that's another whole topic. Success to people can mean different things.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it could be monetary. Some people it could be, how they feel when they help people. So, the word success is totally, something that can mean different things to other people. But for me, I think every day is I meet challenges. And when I see a challenge, being an entrepreneur for 30 years, I've gone through a lot of self-development and training and reading of books and things like that. And I've really tried, and it's not easy by any means still, but I've tried to train myself to have a mindset of, my mantra is keep moving forward. And, I stole that from a Disney movie, Meet the Robinsons, I think it was, but
Yep.
it helps me every day. If I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like, working that day, and I just think of, something that motivates me. And, I have a lot of different, I call them mind hacks, like on days when I feel like, I'm not making any progress, or I feel really unproductive in that day, I just stop and I look back, a week, 2 weeks, a month, and see where I was then and see how far I've come in just a short amount of time. And I'm like, oh, wow, I really have come a long way. And that really gives me the motivation to keep moving forward. But I think the biggest hurdle that I find, in the early stages, and, it hasn't even been a year yet, and it's still early, because of the industry that I'm in, and because it's so new, and really because a lot of people are unaware of the need for ADA compliant websites, and the fact that accessible websites are really a necessity for, a good 25% of the population of the world. And 18% of internet users have some sort of disability that hinders them from utilizing most sites. It really gives me the motivation to continue to keep going. So it's just something that I've worked into my, I don't want to call it my business plan, but my mental plan, for moving forward. So when I meet these challenges each day, I turn them into, instead of something that's going to hold me back, I turn them into motivation to keep moving forward. So, but really the biggest challenge is because this industry, not a lot of people know about it. So I'm out there educating people, spreading the word about accessible websites, and making sure that people know that, yes, you do need an accessible website. And here's a really easy way that's affordable and simple to add to your website or sales funnel in order to bring in more clients, to rate higher in SEO, as well as to become an ethical business to provide these tools for people with what I like to call different abilities. Because if you think about it, every one of us is different, and we all have different abilities. And I know a lot of people that are colorblind. That they don't even think of that as a disability because that's the way they grew up knowing. Or somebody who has dyslexia. I had a lot of friends growing up who had dyslexia, and they learned right alongside me, but they learned differently. So those are the types of things that they deal with on a daily basis. And some of these tools would just even help a lot of people that don't feel like they have disabilities. They're just different abilities that they have than other people. So
Absolutely. Is there anything you can share with us about how you have learned to educate people on what you do before you bring them into your world?
One of the things that I utilize a type of marketing that I call relationship marketing. I learned how to really network at a younger age. When I was in my 20s, I had my own business. Had a couple of businesses actually at the time. I had my own DJ business, and I was a wedding DJ for 22 years, which was kind of my fun business on the weekends. But they were all fun. I also owned an IT company where I grew it from just building computers in college for people to a regional IT. It was a managed services company at the time, so we would remote into businesses and configure their networks and help them with their computers. So growing those businesses, I had to either advertise or network, and I never really spent a lot of money on traditional advertising because I spent a lot of my spare time, as I grew the business, I would hire people to actually do a lot of the work for me. And I would spend my time creating relationships with other business owners through networking. And one of the networking groups that I used to belong to, called BNI, which is an international networking group, their mantra was givers gain. And it really boils down to giving of yourself and your time, and looking for ways that you can help others to start and create a relationship with them, not for the sole purpose of getting something back from them, or right away or even ever, but creating that relationship with them. You create a long-term referral source, really, because if you get to know, like, and trust somebody, they're more apt to refer you to their clients and their friends and family if they need the services that you do. And you're always top of mind for people. Like if I get to know somebody, take our relationship, for instance. We met a couple of months ago. We got to know each other really, really well, and with relationship marketing, you can pick and choose who you get to be friends with, because you can have a real business relationship with some people and nurture it as a business relationship. But then other relationships, if you really connect with somebody and like, and trust them, you can grow it into an actual business / friendship. And you're just growing your whole network of not only business relationship, but people that you want to hang out with, people that you want to surround yourself with. And so the average person in business knows on average about 200 other people that they can, eventually refer you to. So by creating a business relationship with one person, you're creating a future referral source of an average of 200 people for each person. So, talking about the Dream 100, like Russell does, you can create a dream, 1,000. You can create a dream 10,000 just by creating relationships with 20, 30, 40 people, because their spheres of influence become yours as you get to know them much, much better. So that is how, I've been able to grow my past businesses. And that's really, when I got into the digital space, that was more physical, one-on-one. I went to networking meetings and got to meet a lot of people in the local area. But being online and being in the digital space, it's allowed me to really multiply that many times over by, I know and have really gotten to be really close with people all over the US, um, all over the world, really. I have close friends in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Canada. I have a really good friend in Hawaii. I would never have met somebody, on the 50th state in Hawaii, all the way out there, someplace where I hope to go visit and hope to go see him someday. But I met him at Funnel Hacking Live, and it's just really awesome, the connections that you're able to make in person and then nurture them over time, even if you're not at a physical event together, for a long time. So it's been really great being able to connect with people and let people know about what I'm doing through those types of online digital relationships.
That's really fascinating to hear you say and explain. I've been talking with a couple people lately actually about that, and I've also heard that exact same system of relationship marketing, also referred to as old school marketing, because that's what people have done, and it's so weird that in this environment of 10,000 likes and 100,000 subscribers, sometimes it's very easy that in this world of inconceivable huge numbers, we sometimes tend to forget that each of those is a real person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And one of a good friend of both of ours, that I met through a group that we're in. Mr. Don Mamoni, he's become a really good friend of mine as well, because his whole mission, is people first, then profit. And it really, when you meet certain people, that a lot of your values and the way that you do business align. And, when I got to meet Don, it was just like, oh my God, somebody else really gets it. They really understand the relationship marketing world. And I really hadn't run into a lot of people until I met Don and a couple other people in our group that really understood relationship marketing to its fullest. And it was really refreshing to be able to be, a part of a group with others that were like-minded and understood that, because it's really something that, I also hope to help people understand, how to really do relationship marketing. Because a lot of people think it's like, okay, let's get on a speed networking thing on a Zoom call and be like, hi, my name is Tony Caggiano. I sell software, come buy my stuff. That's not how it's done. It's really going in there for the long haul and not thinking about yourself, putting yourself aside and focusing on what you can do to help others. And it will just come back. It's whether you call it karma, whether you call it, the secret, or whatever it may be, you put it out there and it just will come back to you. So.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And I want to take a moment to talk about that little point in time between December and February. So that time when you when you started this mission, when you said hey, this is a really good idea I have here. And then when you actually went in and got this hey, I need to go to this event and go and join all these other business owners. And for those of you that may be just joining us on live, so your journey was that you had this really good idea for a software, so you went to this huge conference in Nashville to listen to these speakers and go and talk with all these other business owners. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there listening right now that might be like, hey, I'm like Tony. I'm also a parent that has a disabled child. I have 2.5 kids, but not everyone is like Tony to the point where they like, hey, and you know what? I'm going to go also build a software to help people in my same position. But you did, Tony. So what was it that made you go and do that? Can you describe that to us?
Sure. But I just have to preface it that, I didn't build the software. I'm not the developer of the software. I did meet a developer who was building the software and kind of partnered with him to white label it and, bring it to the masses. So I don't want to take credit where credit is not due. Absolutely. So in that time period, I did meet this developer when I was looking for somebody, meeting a whole bunch of different developers in different groups to find somebody to do my app. But when I was looking for that, I got to know ClickFunnels a little bit better. I got to meet some people in the community, and then Funnel Hacking Live, Russell came on and said, "Hey, you got to get your tickets, got to get your tickets, got to get your tickets." And I came in later in the year. I started in October. I think I did one funnel away right away. And then, it took me a few weeks, and then I did one funnel away again. And it was at the second time I did one funnel away challenge, I was like, you know what, I got to go all in. I had one gentleman who had seen a good amount of success in the 1 year that he had been in it. Doug Boughton was one of the mentors. Became good friends with him, that I followed and saw what he was doing with ClickFunnels. And, I got to know him and a whole bunch of people online, and just said, you know what, I have to go surround myself with the people that I can learn from. And so I just, I asked my wife, I said, I really think this is a good thing that I need to do. And, take the short plane ride from Raleigh, North Carolina over to Nashville, Tennessee, and spend a week at this convention, because it's really going to teach me a lot and help me. And not only did I learn so much in just that week, but the relationships that I made, because I love building relationships, and there's no better way than to surround yourself with like-minded people in a place where everybody is very giving and everybody wants to learn what you do and help you and everything like that. So, that in itself really was a springboard to allow me to do this. So, I knew what I was planning on doing. I was new with the software and I wanted to promote it, and I knew it was great for people. So I had business cards made up, ready to take with me to Funnel Hacking Live, just in case, and I had 500 made up, and I figured out, I'm going to give out all 500 and I'm going to do really, really well. But it really turned out, it reminded me, it's been a while since I did one-on-one networking. So, I kind of put the business cards aside and started building those relationships, and realized, quickly that once COVID hit and we were doing more and more online, and because I was already networking with people on Zoom before the lockdowns and everything like that, with people that were distanced, because everybody was scattered everywhere. When we left Funnel Hacking Live, we were like, what are we going to do? How are we going to keep this momentum going? Well, there was a small group of us that said, hey, let's get together. Let's use this program called Zoom, which a lot of us hadn't used, at least I hadn't before that. And let's meet up, let's start a small group, mastermind, whatever. And so that's what we did. We started that and kept in touch with each other. And that just led me to, finding some other great people who introduced me to some other groups like Amplify Mastermind that we're in. And
shout out to Cassie.
Yeah, Cassie and Jorge, they do a great job. So that's really, the time period between December and February before, March hit and everything shut down, where I was building those relationships and really fine tuning what I needed to do for ADA Comply Guy. And I hadn't even come up with ADA Comply Guy, my branding yet. I was just Tony Caggiano. I think I was, I was an advisor to a lot of other entrepreneurs in the past. So I was calling myself the entrepreneurial advisor. And I had a really, really long URL, the entrepreneurialadvisoronline.com. And I was like, I got to shorten this somehow. So just one day I was driving in the car with my wife, and I just thought it was like ADA Comply Guy. It kind of has a good ring to it. I said, hey, what do you think of that? And she's like, that's really catchy. So that's where the ADA Comply Guy was born. And, because what I was learning from a lot of people was branding is really important. So it's just something that I wanted to make sure that people can relate to, being the ADA Comply Guy. And I want to become, and I am becoming, the authority and the expert in this space. So that way, if people have questions or want to know more about, ADA compliance on websites or accessibility, or even, I'm connecting with a lot of disabled communities and people in those disabled communities to help them, because there are a lot of disabled entrepreneurs out there, or different abled entrepreneurs, that I just love a lot of the things that they're doing. One of them in particular, I've becoming better friends with. His name is Daniel Svoboda. And he's a gentleman in his 30s, and he is on the autism spectrum. And he unfortunately was bullied when he was younger, but he turned, his pain into his passion, and has really become an advocate to promote inclusivity and togetherness through his message. And he's an amazing artist, and so he draws cartoons, and he's created this whole world called the Imagine Friends. And so we're going to be working with him on some of his marketing to help him really spread his message far and wide. And so as the ADA Comply Guy, it's not just about the software and websites. That's one of the things that I want to help businesses with, to help the disabled community. But there's also a lot of other ways that I'm looking to utilize my experience as an entrepreneur over the years to help others in the disabled community become entrepreneurs, or grow their passion to become an entrepreneur. So
that's absolutely incredible. And I you're one of the people that, from the moment that I sat down with you to even now, it's this guy's going places, because when I talk with you and when I see you interact with others, it's you have that pure sight, and you have that vision of I'm going not just for myself, but it's for the mission of my audience. And so that's why I see you, there is no ifs, ands, or buts. You're going towards your goal, and you're going to get there. There's no doubt about that, Tony.
Yeah, and for me, I think my goal changes every day, because if I could just help one person each day, that to me is a success. I feel successful every time that I can reach somebody or help somebody. If I help a business get their website compliant and accessible, that's one more win for a whole bunch of people who can now use that site. Or if I sit and I help somebody in the disabled community, succeed or reach a goal or something like that, then to me that's also success and a win-win. So every day to me is a success. It's not the becoming a multimillionaire and buying Ferraris and all that stuff. For me, it's really the passion that I have every day to help others succeed, even in just little ways. Every little win to me is a success. So
I suppose that's a good question. What is your is your end goal changing every single day? Is your goal to get a 2 Comma Club award? Is your once the entire internet is ADA compliant, then we're done?
If I get to the point where I can help make the whole internet compliant, then we'll be helping a lot of people, and we'll probably have a lot more opportunity at that point as well. But there are goals, and I wouldn't say it's an end goal, or once I reach, say, some kind of award or 2 Comma Club, it'll be my success and I'm all done and that's it, or whatnot. I think those are goals along the path and along the journey to enrich others and help others. And like I said, every day is this. If I can help somebody, it's a successful day. And my definition of success really is a daily definition. If I can help somebody each day, so I feel successful every time I do something, and that actually helps motivate me, because the little wins, if you can celebrate your little wins, then it'll keep you on a path of continual motivation, even in the down days when, if you're down in the dumps, or if it's raining out or whatever it may be, or you have a really bad day the day before and you're just like, oh, I'm not gonna do anything. But if those little wins, if you celebrate those, you can think of, if I don't do anything today, then there's a chance that I can miss an opportunity to help somebody. And that's just not in the cards for me. I want to keep going because I'm looking for those little wins to help others. And to me, that's little wins and little successes. So
I love it. I love one of the questions I always like to close out my interviews with is that I imagine that, like, when we put out this interview and it's live on the internet, or someone's watching on, like, whether it be like the live or the replay, there's a good chance that, like, maybe there's a past version of yourself listening to this broadcast right now. And so, like, there could be someone listening to this like, wow, Tony, that's me. And so, like, if there was someone listening to this, and this isn't like, what advice would you give your past self? Like, if someone was listening to this right now and was like, I want to do what Tony does, what sort of piece of advice could you give them right now?
I would definitely, and one of the biggest things that's helped me is always invest in yourself in some way. For me, it was self-improvement books. Back in the day before the internet, and even in the early days of the internet, I became an avid reader. I would just go to Barnes & Noble and I would walk through the self-help section and look for books that spoke to me. Brian Tracy was a big author, or still is, but was one of the authors that I really related to. Some of his books have helped me in my early 20s build the mindset to become a self-motivated entrepreneur. And that's something that really, if you don't have people to surround yourself with on a daily basis, or you're not to the point where you can hire a success coach or a business coach, which I highly recommend, once you get to the point where you can, hire somebody to help you through your business growth, work on your mindset and help yourself with little tips and tricks like I've been able to do to get you through those tough times. If you're somebody who may be not as motivated as you'd like to be, figure out how to train your brain in order to, be self-motivated and be that person that you wish was standing next to you saying, let's go, cracking the whip, or come on, if you don't do this, you may not meet that person today that you can help. So continual improvement in yourself and self-education is one thing that I definitely would still tell myself, my younger self, or somebody who's watching, who's looking for that edge or how to be successful, and just dedicate a small amount of time every single day to it. Because if you put the time in every single day, one great quote I love, if you only put 1% in every day to improving yourself, think about it, at the end of the year, you're not going to be 100% better. You're going to be 365% better than you were a year ago. So just keep that in mind. That's just a little bit of effort every single day will make a big difference over a period of time.
That is fantastically well said. Thank you so much for joining us. But before we go, ladies and gentlemen, did you know that for our first episode we have a sponsor? And can you get, like, if you can't guess what the sponsor is, minus points. Tony, do you know what our sponsor is today?
Well, I just wanted to make a little plug for something that I've been helping my wife with for about a year now.
Of course.
Yeah, so it is the book that will be launching extremely soon. We're doing a pre-launch September 21st, coming up next week. We're going to have a special of a signed author's copy along with the audiobook. And what it is a story of our journey, mostly my wife, who really has helped our son tremendously, but a mother's journey story of our son in his first couple of years after being diagnosed with autism. So she really started writing it and journaling when he was first diagnosed, and kept notes over the past 12 years. And she wanted to put together a journal or something to help other families who have either newly diagnosed children or other families with children on this spectrum, on the autism spectrum, to help give them another perspective of somebody who's gone through it. And she's really, her background as a social worker really gave her the ability to look at it from a perspective of how can we really help our son, because people on the autism spectrum, what we've learned is that they're capable of learning. It's just they learn in a different way. And there's a lot of things that she's put in this book to help other families, and mostly to make sure that newly diagnosed families don't feel alone. And this can help guide them in their beginning journey on things like how to get a diagnosis, and how that diagnosis can help them obtain services to help their children and things like that. So it's our story wrapped around with a lot of useful information that a lot of families can possibly relate to. It's called Putting the Pieces Together, A Mother's Journey. And you'll see it on my Facebook page shortly. And I want to give a shout out to my wife. She has done a phenomenal job putting together such an amazing book that is going to help, hopefully, a lot of people and families in their own journeys with children with autism. So
that is amazing. And congratulations to your wife for becoming a published author, because I know how difficult that is.
Yes. So Kimberly Caggiano, remember the name.
Because she's going places.
He's going to help a lot of people with this book. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, our sponsor is conveniently also Tony and his ADA Comply Guy software. So if you want to go check out his software and what it can do, the link to that will be made available to you, whether you are watching on Facebook, whether you are watching on YouTube. It will be properly placed in the description of the YouTube live, or if you are watching on Twitch, which, oh my, only me. Well, okay, then if you are watching on Twitch, it will also be placed in the chat of the Twitch channel. And as always, guys, you can catch us on our next episode of My Cool Friends. And I look forward to seeing you guys. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Have a great night, everyone.